Hello and welcome back to Transcendence with Jack Moses. Today I have my good friend Taylin Simmonds on. I think this is our fourth podcast to this point, if I'm right. So I'm super stoked to have you on again. It's fun to chat like every year, get a new conversation, see what's changed.
Yeah, dude, it's fun. I think we have done one every single year. And one thing that's changed with you is, especially now that it's called the Transcendence Podcast or whatever, you sound like an ASMR late night DJ. Welcome to the Transcendence Podcast with Jack Moses.
I think I've calmed down a little bit in the past few years. Like I remember the first time we did a podcast, like early 2023, I was probably so fucking nervous. I was like, holy shit, this guy's built an agency to like 50K. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. Am I ready for this? But I mean, now it's like, I probably put out 100 podcasts, so it's just fun. And I know you, and I've been in the jungle with you, which we might get to at some point. But
yeah. We're a lot closer now, that's for sure.
For sure. But yeah, man, I wanted to start with something quite tangible, creative workflows. So from the outside, it looks like you're super consistent, newsletters all the time, paid newsletters all the time, growing on Substack, LinkedIn, also running a business in the background, right? Which isn't as front facing to people, but I know that takes a lot of time and energy. So I would love to just know like workflow, daily workflow, what do your creative blocks look like?
Yeah, it's interesting that you say I'm consistent, because I maybe appear consistent from an output perspective, but I don't feel consistent from like a habitual perspective. I'm definitely more of like a neurodivergent creative, where I don't wake up and just sit down and do creative work first thing. For me, it's like I can force myself to work, but I can't always force myself to do like creative work. It just doesn't quite hit right. And even with Substack notes in particular, like I used to schedule notes because we're from the Twitter space, right? You batch a week of content and you just schedule it. I find that the best content is something that I have like this emotional connection to in the moment, and I have to write it then. The problem is that's not easy to systemize, because you can't just wander through your day and be like, when I feel ready, I'm going to write this thing. So I basically will get up, and if I'm not in a really good headspace or I'm not really regulated from a nervous system perspective, I will do 30 minutes of breath work and stretching, and I'll regulate first. I want to like calm down. I want stuff to be like popping up into my subconscious. I want to feel like I have that relationship with it, where I'm communicating with the part of me that is, beyond me. And that's where a lot of the best ideas come from. I start to feel them. I'm more in tune with the emotions. And then I'll sit down and just start writing and kind of see what pops up. And if that doesn't work and I just really can't get into writing something new, I'll edit something else, because I find that's a little bit different. If I've already got like the core idea down and the whole thing is outlined, the whole thing is drafted, and I wrote it when I was in a really emotional flow, I can edit it when I'm not as connected to the idea and it doesn't lose the essence. But when it comes to new work, especially stuff that's more creative, I have to write it when I feel it. So it's about optimizing my day to regulate and increase the amount of chances that I'm going to feel connected to something.
It's so interesting because I literally put out a post maybe 20 minutes before we hopped on about creativity and how you can't be creative all the time. Because today I had the intention, okay, I want to write a thread for Twitter and I want to keep working on this article. I couldn't find it. I was tired. I woke up early. I didn't get amazing sleep. And I was like, I just can't force it right now. And so I laid down, I took a nap, talked to a friend, and then bang, the creativity came back. And the analogy I used with him and what I put in the post is that like two things. One, nature happens in cycles, right? Like it doesn't rain all the time. It rains for a bit and then it stops. The wind blows and then it stops. It's like things come in bursts and then they stop. And our creative expression, our creative output is the same. Like you can't constantly be shining in terms of creativity. There needs to be cycles of resting and then cycles of your subconscious munching on something and then cycles of output. The other thing that I've been thinking about recently, and I think it's tied to the breathwork nervous system, is creativity. And this is actually from Ray Peat, who's kind of like a health philosopher and thinker. He talks about creativity is an excess of energy. So when you have excessive energy, then that energy wants to get out. It wants to go manifest into form. And so everything's downstream of your energy. And so if you're not in a high energy state, it's literally impossible to be creative. you're just going to be forcing things mechanically. But when you're rested in your nervous system, you did your breath work, you got the sun, you got your steps, then bang, like you almost can't help but create. So it's interesting because like people talk about all the time, like you need systems, you need discipline, and this is true. But it's like almost the less systematized you are and the more high energy you are, the more you're just naturally going to do the thing anyways.
Yeah, I've never heard that creativity is an excess energy. I need to noodle on it, but it is interesting because I think of what is creativity? What is the actual output that I'm trying to get? And it's basically innovation. Like you can create and not be creative, but you cannot be creative and not create, I would say. Like at least that's how it appears in my mind. So when I sit down to write, I can write something that's like not creative at all. I'm not innovating. I'm not combining unrelated things. I'm not saying something in a unique way. And you can definitely do that when you're low energy. You can force yourself to do that work. And sometimes that's where the editing for me comes in when I'm doing writing. It's like I can edit something and I can just be a little low energy and I can go really slow and think it through and slog through it. But if I want something to feel unique and creative, there needs to be, I guess, like you're saying, the energy to do it, which comes from rest. A lot of times that's why, I know people like Hormozy are just like, get up and just get to work. And some days, like I wake up so energized and I'll be dreaming of an idea. And I'm like, I need to write this now. Like, it's almost like I've written it in my sleep and I just need to output it. Other days I wake up, I'm like, damn, I'm feeling really off. I'm like low energy. I'm sluggish. I'm going to do 30 minutes of breath work and I'm just going to meditate until I'm ready to sit down and write, which sounds so counterproductive. Like some people would be like, oh, that's lazy. Like you're not being productive. It's like, no, I'm thinking of it not from hours outputted, but from output from those hours. And I just know myself from 4 years of creating that if I'm really, really sluggish, I'm just going to get frustrated that I can't put out this creative work. And then it's going to get even harder and it's just going to spiral. I might as well just regulate first. And then like the idea will come to me. Like I know it will. Like there's been pretty much never, ever a time where I sat there for an hour meditating after doing breath work and I haven't had a creative idea to write about. It's never happened.
Right. It's almost like sit there in silence and wait until you can't not create. Like that's what it is for me. Like I'll sit there and I'm like, okay, I feel like I'm forcing things. I don't know what to do. I'll sit down, I'll lay down, and then I'll literally be pulled into something and then I can't get myself away from it. Another idea that I heard on this, I think last week, and I can't remember who said it, but they were like, if you don't feel like creating and if you don't feel like working, just tell yourself that you're going to sit down at your desk, turn on your computer, and just start looking at some things. And then naturally, you're going to start to get pulled into it. So like if I just start going on Twitter or if I start checking my email or something, like I'm not forcing myself to do anything. I'm just telling myself I'm just going to be looking at some things. Then you kind of slip yourself accidentally into the flow state.
Yeah, I think that can happen. It can lead to distraction too. It depends on how disciplined you are with it. I would, for me, like when I think about that technique, like that's almost like a tactic. I think the first principles is I just need to feel pulled by something. Like I need curiosity to come into play. And I define curiosity as knowledge deprivation. Because, there is no motivation without deprivation. So if curiosity is like, oh, I really need to look this thing up right now, or I really need to research this, or I need an answer to this. It's because I'm deprived of some form of knowledge. I don't have an answer for it. So sometimes when you're reading something, it can open those questions and your curiosity will take you down a rabbit hole. Next thing you know, you're like, I have to create and write about this thing. For some people that get too sucked into things and then they're just like consuming shit on YouTube. Like that can be tough too. It's like like when you're meditating or like if you're depriving yourself of some kind of input, I think it can be good of just like, what is fascinating me right now? Or like, what's something that I wish I had an answer to? What's something that I can't believe I haven't sat down to find an answer to yet, and like almost prime the subconscious mind when you're in a relaxed state. And then those like knowledge deprivation gaps will appear. That's how I do it, because it's too risky for me to start consuming shit.
Yeah, it's definitely a fine line, because if you just start scrolling Twitter, next thing you know, it's like 2 hours have passed and you're like, what the fuck did I just do? But I think the curiosity point is the key, right? Like what's pulling my curiosity? But for you recently, like what have you been pulled towards from a curiosity perspective the most? What have you been reading? What have you been interested in?
I've been most interested in being a polymath and being multi-passionate. So I've gone through a bit of an arc where the past few years, I will even admit that my brand and my writing have been quite unfocused, and I've been scattered and all over the place. And for the people that have followed me through this time, I'm really grateful for, because, you know, sometimes I'm talking about ghostwriting, then I'm talking about just writing, then focus, then productivity, then mental health, and then I'm back to ghostwriting. Like, it just looks like a scatter shot. Even when I look through like my old tweets, because I can see them all in like an archive, I'm like, holy shit, this is like, there's no focus here. And it wasn't until I read this piece by this guy named Joel Yulee on Substack, and he talked about how basically you start multi-interest if you're someone who's interested in multiple things, and then through exploring those interests, you figure out which of a few of those you become multi-passionate about. And then once you become multi-passionate, you're like, I'm into all of these things, say writing, mental health, spirituality, and drawing and creativity. Well, now you need to become multidisciplinary, which is how do you learn all of these things in succession? And then eventually, when you become multidisciplinary for a long enough time, you become a polymath. So you basically move from multi-interest, which is generalist, to specialized generalist, which is, you know, multi-passionate, but I'm good at like maybe one or two of these things. I have a specialist with some generalist knowledge. And then a polymath would be multi-general or multi-specialist, which takes a long time to get that good. And I looked back on this whole 4-year arc that I went through, and I just recontextualized my journey. It was no longer, oh, I was just unfocused, I was unable to commit to something. It's, how do you create a cohesive, unified brand as someone who is just naturally multi-passionate? Because there's some people who can just write about ghostwriting, and they're like, I can just talk about this one thing over and over again. I love it. I'm crushing this niche. I've never been that person.
Yeah, same.
And it's always like been almost debilitating at times, because you look at people who are like that and you're like, is there something wrong with me? Like, why can't I do that?
Right.
Is it just because I'm avoiding the hard work? Is it because I'm not willing to sit with boredom? But it doesn't intuitively feel right. There's something about it that you're like, that's just not, I'm not escaping anything. It just isn't what I'm supposed to do. And when I figured out that process, it had me reflect on like, okay, how do you build that cohesive brand? And I think it's that you need a unifying outcome if you're multi-passionate that is broad enough to let you explore your intersections of those interests, but it's narrow enough that people understand why they should follow you and what transformation they're going to get. So how this might look tangibly is, for me, it's like, okay, being a writer, it's like, if you're a multi-passionate writer, it's like, I want to teach people how to write. I also want to talk about creativity. I want to talk about mental health. All of these things intersect really nicely to create good, unique pieces of writing. So now there's a unifying outcome. Other unifying outcomes can be, I think, like making money, like, because you could argue that a business person is multi-passionate, like marketing, sales, value creation. So then that's a unifying outcome. A lifestyle could be an outcome. I think that's Dan Coe's, in my opinion, is this is the life that you get when you know multiple skills and you are good at multiple skills. But people need to know, I'm following this person to lead towards this one outcome. And then when you talk about things, instead of it seeming like it's in isolation, it's how do these things connect? What are the primary skills that they need, like writing, to deliver the product and produce a product? And what are the secondary interests that allow that product to be innovative and creative in nature? And that's like what I've been obsessed with for the past while.
I love it. And it's so interesting to hear you say that, because from my perspective, yeah, I think we talked maybe a month ago or so when you came into the community and you gave a guest masterclass. And I came away from that call thinking, and I told my friend this, I was like, dude, Taylin is so focused. Like, I am so scattered in comparison to Taylin. I need to take more note of what he's doing and get more disciplined and focused. And so hearing you say you're scattered, if you are a 50 out of 100 scattered, I have been a 90 or 95 out of 100 scattered.
Yeah.
But when I reflect on it as well, it's like I wouldn't go back and change it, because everything that I was researching and talking about, I was so genuinely interested in. My same thing as you is like, how do you combine those into one destination you're leading people towards, one product, one business? That's been my question. And because I'm so neurodivergent, I have so much curiosity. The transformation that I want to lead people towards is actualizing their potential. And so it's like all these sub buckets that I've talked about and created offers around. Like, if you've been following me for the past few years, I have launched creator cohorts. I've done performance coaching. I've done health coaching. I've done ghostwriting. I've done brand building. I've done marketing consulting, but I've also done astrology readings, tarot card readings, spiritual coaching, retreats. Like, there's so much broad width to what I've done, but there hasn't been that depth, and it hasn't
Yeah.
manifested in terms of outcomes or like really deep, consistent business success. But now I feel,
Sure.
and I just wrote an article about this, like, I feel like these things are synthesizing into one expression or maybe a few expressions. But if we say human potential, the two things that I want to lead people towards are peak health and energy, which
Mhm.
kind of combines physics, quantum physics, spirituality, health, performance, creativity, mental health, and then helping people become free online, personal branding, skills, writing, speaking, networking, audience growth. So it's a really interesting topic because when you are in one niche, I think it's easier to accelerate faster in terms of results. Like, you go, okay, I'm a ghostwriter for this exact person, and this is all I'm going to do for 3 years. Those people see massive success. But I've always been drawn towards, like, I look at the books on my shelf right now. It's like Leonardo da Vinci, like the ultimate polymath. Steve Jobs, like very polymathic type of guy who channeled that focus into one vision. So I think being a polymath, sometimes it can take longer to piece all these things together. But once they do click, then I think you can speed run and go much bigger and broader than everybody who is just in a narrow niche.
I completely agree. Like, a few things that come up are, like, I've been going through a mental health course all on ADHD, anxiety, depression, and meditation from Dr. K, and it has been so incredible as like a broad generalist study. And he talks about how neurodivergent people, their brains actually like neurologically develop later in life than other people. So
That
I
gives
think
me
that,
some grace.
yeah, and you're still quite young. So it's, I'm just turning, I'm turning 32 this year, and I'm just starting to feel like all my synthesis is like coming together and it's organizing in the right way. And also, if you're going to pursue something multi-passionate or polymathic, it's just naturally going to take longer to do that and actualize that. It requires more skills, more study, more time. Like, if you want to get good at multiple things, it's going to take longer than getting good at one thing. Like, so that's something that I wish that I knew when I was trying to figure this out, going through this exploration phase, was it is actually normal for it to take longer for me. It should. Like, when I look at other people who just talk about writing, and it's like, damn, they have it all figured out. It's like, well, yeah, they're not trying to talk about 5 things and find the intersection point. There's a lot less study, like, naturally. And that was really comforting for me to hear that. And I see a lot of that in you as well, where you're going from what I would consider to be the multi-passionate phase to the multidisciplinary phase. And and I'm stepping into this more completely now. So my question was like, how do you learn multiple things at once? Like, that's so hard to do. And my model for it is, there needs to be primary skills that are practiced through production, not study. So the first thing that I like to do every day is produce something. So it's like, okay, writing is a primary skill that I need to produce the product that I want. It could also be video editing. It could be drawing. Anything that allows for the production of the outcome is studied through practice. And you only like study otherwise when you have a gap in knowledge and you don't know how to practice further.
Yes.
And then you can probably see where I'm going with this. And then all the secondary stuff is you block time in your calendar to go through the secondary stuff for breadth, what's called breadth, not depth. So the primary stuff will naturally develop very depthy because you're just producing stuff with it all the time. But then in the evenings is where I allow myself to do generalist studies. No shame, no guilt. I'm not like, oh, I need to be practicing my writing. I need to be refining this. I'm like, no, I sat down and produced something today for 4 to 6 hours, maybe even 8. I took a break, meditated, hit the gym or whatever. In the evenings, like, that's my generalist studies. It doesn't even matter if it seems completely unrelated to anything else that I'm studying. This is my time to develop those secondary skills. So for me right now, it's been mental health. Like, how do you, I went through a spout of like really deep depression last year, which I didn't even know I was depressed until I like seen multiple people and they diagnosed me with it. And I'm like, okay, I want to know how to overcome my own depression. So that's why I took this mental health course was, okay, what is everything about depression? What are some of the cures? How can I become aware of it? ADHD, I got diagnosed with that last year, being more neurodivergent. okay, how does an ADHD mind control their motivation? Because, maybe it's different than other people. Same with anxiety. Like, okay, well, I'm getting a lot of anxiety in my business. How do I do that? So that's been my evenings, as well as reading Leonardo da Vinci by Walter Isaacson, actually.
Really?
Yeah, I'm reading it right now.
It's actually like the third book I have right next to me. That's awesome.
Crazy. So we're both, we're both like in that realm. But to me, that's what it looks like to be multidisciplinary is for like main skills are practiced through production. And then you give yourself permission to be like, I'm just so curious about whatever the fuck. And you just explore that for fun. And then when you go to produce, that's what's like lingering in the subconscious and it just leaks into the production. It makes it really unique.
Yeah, and sometimes these things that we learn, just they seem fun, can actually help in our products or our business in really unpredictable ways. Like, I went super deep into astrology over the past year, and I didn't plan this. I was just kind of pulled into it. And like, people are like, how did you learn this? Or how did you learn to do this? Like, did you take a course? Did you have a mentor? It's like, no, I learned the base fundamentals just by talking to ChatGPT. And then I just started reading my friends' charts. I probably have read like over 100 or a couple hundred charts just for fun. And I tried to monetize that for a bit, and I did, but then I was like, do I just want to be an astrologer? No, like I want to maybe use it, but my vision is broader. And so now in the creator community that I run and the creator consulting that I do, at first, when I was helping people build a personal brand, like we looked at childhood, we looked at natural tendencies, like who are you really? What brand do you want to build? What's your mission? Now the astrology has actually infused into that. We're like, okay, I want to see your read. I want to see your natural frequency, and how can we align your personal brand with that? But I couldn't have predicted how those things would intersect. So it's like, I mean, it's the classic Steve Jobs. It's like you can connect the dots looking backwards, but if you keep following the curiosity, it's somehow going to piece together down the line into something broader than if you just were like, no, I'm only focusing on this one thing. And I think, it's something deep within us, in our spirit, that just like wants to go explore all these things. Like, most people are not going into the jungle to sip ayahuasca. Like, there's something in us that's like, I gotta know, I gotta explore more. And for me, I've always felt if I cut that part of myself off and I only focus on one thing, I only study one thing, I only get a job, whatever it is, I'm going to be killing my spirit in the process. And that's the deeper reason why I could never be a narrow specialist.
Yeah. I just totally agree with all of that. It's very hard to get the clarity as someone who's multi-passionate looking forward. And that's the hardest part, is like the uncertainty of how does all this connect. That's why I come back to the first principles. It will be some kind of outcome, and it will probably be something with market demand, or something that you can create demand for more easily. Like, I like that you said astrology. Like, I don't want to like narrow into astrology. I also think that would be a bit of an uphill battle to monetize astrology, but to do some kind of offer around creation and human potential and whatnot, like an outcome that there's demand for, and then you weave astrology into that process.
Right.
That's really good. That's what I call like primary and secondary interests, or primary, secondary skills. Is, primary skill, branding, creator. It's usually, primary skills usually are for producing something. That's what I come back to. It's like, here's the outcome that I directly need to produce this. But secondary skills just allow it to feel different, to be positioned differently, to market it differently, to feel different in the experience. And that's a model that has worked quite well for me in gaining clarity, looking at, which of these are going to be at the front line, marketable, outcome based, which of these skills and interests are going to be on the back burner, and which do I not know where they go yet. Like an example,
being okay with that.
Yeah, being okay with that. Like an example is, I got really into anime and manga over the past year. I just like binged so much of it. And for me, being like, I really struggle with motivation if I'm watching TV shows and stuff. Like, I just want to binge shows. I have very little self-control there. So I'm like, well, I can't really watch the anime because I just don't feel like working. Why don't I read the manga instead? And then when I started reading the manga, I just like fell in love with it. I just was like, oh my God, it's not as stimulating on my brain. I can do it at the end of the day. It's like good storytelling. I love the drawing. And then I was like, I really want to do something around like drawing and manga, but I just don't know how it fits into what the hell I'm doing. I sat on it for like 6 months. And then one day when I was doing a newsletter, I was like, oh, I need to make graphics for this. But I was feeling really strapped for time and a little bit exhausted. I didn't feel like I had the mental energy, and I wanted to release it the next day. So I thought, oh, what if I went back to all the manga panels that I took pictures of because I liked them when I was reading manga, and I found ones that thematically fit into each section of the newsletter, and conveyed like a vibe. Like, I'm not going to use a diagram for educational. I want to convey a vibe or an emotion of what was like being felt here. And then I had so much fun doing that. I was like going through my phone, looking through hundreds of manga panels I had pictures of, and I like layered them all in there. And then people were messaging me like, I've never seen that. This is such a vibe. This is so cool. You really should like double down on this manga thing. So now I'm going to change my banner to be more like kind of drawn. And it just kind of like found its way in there one day on accident. But I sat on it for like 6 months, not really sure how to make it work. And you know, sometimes those interests and skills, you don't know where they're going to go yet.
Yeah, I love that. I feel like it's quite aligned with what we were kind of speaking about in the jungle. Like you wanting to step deeper into like the storytelling, maybe like writing novels, these things that were coming through. And what I experienced, and I think maybe this is all the deep psychedelic work, is like you see this grand vision for your life, and then you have to come back into normal life and chip away at making it happen. Like I saw, okay, this is what I could be doing in 50 years. Like I just want to do it now. Well, it's not going to really happen like that. It's going to slowly piece together brick by brick. And then maybe 10 years from now, you're writing anime yourself. Who knows?
Yeah. Like, you know, on that point too, about those realizations where you maybe see the next direction you want to go in life and you feel like you're stuck. Like, you know, when we came out of the jungle, I was like, oh, I really want to focus on storytelling and stuff, but I feel like I have my business and this ghostwriting stuff that I'm doing. And how do I get there? And it wasn't until more recently that I realized, well, what, just do YouTube. Like YouTube's a different game. Like when you do I find this really fascinating. And for people listening to this, I think if you want to make a newsletter really unique, here's one way you can do it, is the way that people do YouTube videos is they basically have to be stories from start to end, even if they're educational, for a really good YouTube video, right? So it'll be like, not, okay, I sat down to figure out how to succeed as a polymath. It's not like, here's how to succeed as a polymath. It's, you know, I was curious about how to succeed as a polymath and how do you become one? So I spent the past 3 months and I actually researched all these books and I studied all these things, and you won't believe what I found, because the first thing was in the most unlikely place. And then you go to the first tip, right? Yeah. And then the first tip's like, you know, going into a story of like you going through this problem. And I was like, well, this would be like a mini version of me actualizing my dream of getting into storytelling. Is I don't have to wait to write novels. I don't have to go all in on trying to produce an anime and raise funds. What if I used YouTube as a vehicle to do my educational content with more of a storytelling twist? Then taken even to simpler, what if I wrote my newsletters like this? Instead of how everyone else is writing them, like basically copying Dan Coe's essay style or just writing short story newsletters. What if my newsletters were written with this like YouTube script writing element? And now I get to practice my storytelling and get better at it. And then one day, if I do go to write a story, I feel like I'll just be better at it because I've done all these like practices of it for years. So I think like our dreams, our big dreams, there's always ways to actualize them in the present if we're creative enough to look for those connections.
That's a good one. I think you should probably write that one down after this. I'm curious to know more about what you've learned in those studies of the mental health, the ADHD, the anxiety, the depression, because as somebody who is quite neurodivergent myself, I haven't been diagnosed with ADHD, but like I've asked a lot of people who I'm friends with who have ADHD. I'm like, do you think I'm ADHD? They're like 100%. So it's, I mean, maybe you would say the same thing. I think so. I don't think it's a bad thing. There's a lot of research around this, and like Noah Ryan has some really great information and articles out there about like being a hunter type and how do you use ADHD to your advantage, all these things, which I've found a lot of value in. But I'm curious to know like what you've learned in those domains, because in the past I've suffered from chronic anxiety, a lot of depression, and being hyperstimulated all the time. So if you have anything you'd want to share, I'd be super curious.
Yeah, of course. So let's see. Anxiety is the future focused mind. Depression is the past focused mind. And ADHD is basically uncontrolled motivation. That's how I would define the three of them. So anxiety, and by the way, I'm trying to wrap this in a human potential lens. Because, you know, when people study mental health, it's like, oh, you're sick and you've all this ADHD and anxiety, blah, blah, blah. I think that it's more interesting to study these as, you know, what are things that I can learn from this to just better operate the same way someone would study like productivity hacks.
Exactly. And one quick point here is like, I think everything exists on a spectrum. It's not binary. It's not like you're depressed or you're not depressed. It exists on a spectrum. So it's like, even if you have 5% depression, 2% depression, learning it can help you get to 1%, 0%, and then actualize your potential. So I love that angle.
Yeah, that's how I think about it too. And I like that you say a spectrum, because so qualities of each. So depression is when the mind, like your subconscious mind, basically bullies you. That's how I would define it. It feels heavy. You feel a lack of hope because your mind becomes rigid and you start thinking that the past will dictate the future. So because I've made these mistakes before, because I have acted like this, you get this really negative crystallized identity, and your subconscious mind just bullies you all the time. So it'd be like sitting down to write, which is what used to happen to me. And instead of focusing on the writing, it would just say, you're not as good as this person. Like, oh, this person wouldn't say that. Who are you to talk about this? So your mind is like at war with you all the time when you're depressed. It gives you like no hope in doing anything. And a depressed mind naturally becomes rigid, and they start to look like binaries. So in my study of learning about depression, it just showed me that a lot of that was an illusion. And I was like, okay, well, I can be not depressed. I can be depressed. And there's a continuum in between. So if all of this like stuff is just depressive thoughts, I started to see through the rigidity, and they started to soften a lot. So then I would tell myself, like, okay, like I sat down to write, and even though I had these thoughts, I still wrote. I must be a writer. Oh, look at the results of the past thing. Like that actually did really well. These thoughts like are wrong. And this, maybe we'll get into like replanting those subconscious thoughts after I wrap up this little thing, so it has more of an arc. With anxiety is basically just like perceived panic in that way. It's like the future focused mind. It's your prediction engine about what's going to happen going to just straight fear. So for me, breath work was the antidote to anxiety. It's like, hey, this isn't real. I'm not having thought identity collapse where I have this anxious thoughts, I'm attaching it to my identity, and I just think they're real and there's no questioning them. I had to learn to see that and then find a way to regulate and bring myself down. So now when, okay, I'm feeling really anxious, I'm just going to step away and do 20, 30 minutes of breath work. Oh, all of a sudden I don't feel anxious anymore. Wow, I thought that was real and that this terrible catastrophic thing was going to happen. But now 30 minutes later, I just feel better. So now my prediction engine is different now that I found breath work, because before, when I'd feel anxious, like, shit, I'm feeling anxious. I'm scared this newsletter's not going to do well. I'm scared this client's going to fire me. But now I'm really scared, and now I'm having trouble focusing. So now that I can't focus, I can't do this work. And now that I can't do the work, I'm going to get fired, and it just loops, right? But now my prediction engine is, oh no, I'm going to step away and do 20 minutes of breath work and come back and it's fine. So now in really extreme cases, I can do that. In the less extreme cases, I'll catch the anxiety and be like, oh, it's just anxiety. I'll just keep working. And if this doesn't go away, I'll do breath work. And now I don't even step away to do the breath work as much anymore, because my predictive engine is like, well, I can just solve it if I need to.
Yeah, and you're not fearing it anymore. Like when we fear the fear, when we fear and push away the anxiety, it persists. But if you're like, okay, there's anxiety, it's there, I'm not afraid of it, like I'm cool with it, I'm willing to be with it, then it fades away.
Yes, 100%. So the breath work for me was the solution to that without medication. For someone, it might be like meditation or something else. But breath work to me is like the benefits of meditation with a shortcut, which is why I like it so much.
Yeah, I love breath work too. And for me, I'm thinking about, okay, if I'm getting anxious, what do? I like listening to spiritual teachers. I love listening to the words of Jesus. I'll listen to Alan Watts. I'll listen to Ram Dass. I'll listen to Frederick Dotson guided meditation. Like those, because like what I've experienced is when we are listening to somebody or we're reading their writing, we are absorbing their frequency essentially. And so if you are in an anxious frequency and you start listening to some enlightened master who is speaking profound wisdom, especially if it's around anxiety, your nervous system is going to calibrate to theirs and you're going to drop. So that's been my number one way.
I love that. So there's 2 hacks for people. Just try them both, see which one you prefer. Like there's so many tools. It's just about finding the ones that work for you, right? Like here's a hot take on the anxiety one is walking in nature does almost nothing for me. I don't find it to be therapeutic in a single sense of the word. Like I've been anxious. I've gone for walking for 2 hours and I've come back feeling exactly the same.
Right. Because then the walking leads to more thinking potentially. Have you tried to actually put your bare feet on the earth or like touch a tree? I know it sounds very woo-woo, but like, have you tried this?
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. Then I've been trying to do more of that as well. Like It's winter here in Canada, but when I'm in Australia, I've been trying to do more barefoot, like go to the beach. I do like being out in nature. It's just, my point is, from a therapeutic, like I need to regulate myself. I have not found going in nature to regulate my nervous system in particular. But breath work does, like 100% of the time in 20 to 30 minutes. So I'm just like, I'll just shortcut it. I'll do that and then I'll walk in nature, because then I can walk in nature with a relaxed mind.
Yeah, like why not just choose what you like? Like, okay, I like chocolate chip ice cream. I'm just gonna get that. I don't need to like try all these crazy things. Could be interesting if you meditate and do breath work in nature, barefoot, connected to the earth. I guarantee you're gonna have profound experience.
Let's do it, man. Next time you and I are hanging out, for sure we'll do it. But I'll give it a try. I will.
Let's go.
You know, when you were saying it's like, it's what you like, I would take it even to a different point and say, it's just what happens to work for my nervous system. Like I didn't choose that, right? Like I'm not saying to people, oh, walking in nature doesn't work. It's like, look, I've tried it for years. And if I do 20 to 30 minutes of breath work, it just fucking solves my problem. I wish that I could go walk in nature and that it would do the same thing. It'd actually be great. I'd get more steps.
Yeah. What type of breath work are you doing?
I prefer to do DMT breathing is probably my favorite ones. Anything with long CO2 holds.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I found is to be the best. Sufi breathing is good for energy, but the ones that make me feel the best, and Dakota and I did this for the first time a couple days ago, and he was like, dude, that was like crazy. I feel completely different in terms of state, is breath holds where you exhale all the way out and you have to hold between 1 and 2.5 minutes.
Yes, I love that. It's like, that is a peak experience. You feel so present.
Yeah, it's great, man. Like
I gotta get back into that, I should say.
Breathe with Sandy on YouTube, and then go to his playlist and go to long breath holds and just do anything in that playlist.
Okay, for the people listening, I'll give you one more. So Breathe with Sandy. Also check out Nick Sweeney, my good friend. He's got a bunch of amazing breath works out there. But yeah, breath holds they're beautiful. Especially like I remember some of the most profound experiences that I've had has been do a cold plunge, get out, do Wim Hof breathing, and then at the end of a Wim Hof set, hold. And you can work yourself up to like 1-2 minutes. It's wild. I never thought I could hold my breath for that long. And I'll urge caution, like don't hurt yourself doing this. But if you regulate your nervous system, you can do probably over a minute. You'll surprise yourself.
Dude, completely. Like when I started, so okay, here's another thing about anxiety. From a physiological perspective, if you have a high CO2 sensitivity, you are likely to experience more anxiety all the time, like a baseline level. And because a lot of people don't exercise very intensely, they, for years they've just been sedentary. They have like a CO2 sensitivity that if they breathed all the way out and held their breath, it would be like 7 seconds. That's insane. Wow. Because if you want to reduce the CO2 sensitivity a lot, I've heard, I'm not an expert here, but I've heard you got to get between 30 and 45 seconds. So I'm at, like, you're so far off. So 6 months ago, I did this test. I was at 7 seconds. I was like, shit, no wonder I'm so anxious all the time. So my girlfriend's becoming a breathwork instructor. So we started doing breathwork like once, twice a day. And within 6 months of doing it almost daily, not always, but mostly daily, I can now do up to a 2-minute, 30-second exhale hold during a breathwork session. And my CO2 sensitivity without breathwork has gone to about 25 seconds instead of 7.
Wow, that's super powerful. And I'm sure that you see it manifesting in business too, because I used to think, oh, if I'm just like more stimulated, more productive, working faster, I'll get better results. But what I found is that the calmer I am in my nervous system, the better things go, because we talked about this a little bit earlier. Like, one profound idea will move you further than 100 okay ideas, right? Yeah. There's an argument to be made for consistency, but in this era of leverage, you write one post from this really high frequency, calm place, you will grow more than you would if you just were doing those same sporadic things for a month. So it's so powerful for any writer or creator listening.
It can happen. I agree with you about the one idea thing. And one of the connected overarching ideas of this whole conversation we're having is actually just in the importance of a relaxed nervous system or a regulated nervous system.
It's funny. I did not think we were going to talk about this at all.
Yeah. Well, yeah. It's just what works, right? like creativity. I am not creative unless I am relaxed or I
Yes.
have a relaxed nervous system. What is the thing that can get me into a relaxed state where I am likely to be creative almost 100% of the time? Breath work and meditation. And if I do breath work before the meditation, it'll happen faster. So
Mm-hmm.
I've even taken Brian Mayerhofer's thing where once or twice a week, I now do sensory deprivation for 1 to 2 hours, where I
Nice.
put on like an eye mask, noise canceling headphones, and I just sit there either completely deprived if I want to do like just complete like no stimulation, that will make you creative,
I love that.
or
It's so nourishing to do that.
so nourishing. It's incredible. And going to the ayahuasca stuff, if I'm feeling more like I want to go on a healing journey, I'll do that, but I'll listen to YouTube ayahuasca shaman music.
Oof,
And
wow.
I'll just sit there for an hour and a half and listen to like these shamans singing Icaros and stuff. And maybe it's because we've done ayahuasca and I have the association of healing. I just find it cleanses out all the garbage energetically for me.
Yeah, I mean, those songs are literally designed to purge out that energy. I'm gonna try. I haven't tried that. Sometimes actually, I would before a football game this season, I would put on like super masculine shamanic drum music, and it would just get me
Nice.
so into like a warrior mindset. You know, you kind of
Yep.
need that warrior mindset when you're about to drink that cup. So
Yeah.
they kind of carried over to the football season. But
King, warrior, magician, lover, right?
exactly.
Yeah. Yeah,
Maybe
man. Yeah.
maybe we could finish this with the topic of ayahuasca because it's now been 15 months or so, 14 or 15 months since we sat with it 5 times. How has that evolved for you since? Like, can you notice a significant difference between who you are now and who you were before then?
Yeah, 100%. Like very, very different. But I was also in a very different phase of life. Like when we went into the jungle, it was probably, in hindsight, one of the most irresponsible decisions I had done because I was just going through a breakup with a woman I thought I was going to marry and have kids with that I was dating for like 3 years. Um, I was like struggling in my business at the time. I was struggling financially at the time because of like just so many bad decisions that I made. I was moving back to Canada. Like it was like my whole life was kind of in shambles, and that was why I went. I'm like, my life is just so terrible across the board that, and I'm being kind of dramatic when I say terrible. It's just like it was perceived that way, that I want to go and do ayahuasca. But I think that led to me having some really interesting kind of darker trips because I was just not in a good place of life. Like as you know, I probably out of everyone, maybe except for one other person, had mostly like trips that were very difficult. Maybe not dark, but very difficult. And now that it's like 15 months later, my business is in a good place. I've lost like 15 pounds of weight. I'm in a really healthy relationship. I'm have some really good habits. My nervous system is regulated. I'm just looking back on who I was when I did that ayahuasca, and I'm like, wow, I just did not know how to control my own mind. I was completely out of control with my habits. I wasn't listening to my intuition. And the ayahuasca was just trying to show me like, you already know what you need to do. You're just not doing it. You already know who you need to become. There's so much junk and negative emotion and identity friction that is in the way. And 15 months of work, like this past 15 months has been work.
Mm-hmm.
It has been so much journaling, so much breath work, exercise. I've worked with a new psychologist. I've done like parts therapy, among other things, like so much healing and so much work. And now 15 months later, I'm like, I'm good and I could go back, but I'm still recontextualizing that experience. What about
Mm.
you?
Oof. Um, well, my perception on reality is completely shattered from that experience. Like, there were a few journeys during those 5 that were like absolutely terrifying, especially the second one,
Yeah.
where I just experienced the depths of anxiety and fear of death, which was super powerful. But once I went through that, it was very interesting because in that trip, I felt like I was showed like the gates of hell. I was showed like the fire of hell. It was terrifying. I thought I was going to die. But simultaneously, once that started to clear, I was shown like the broadness of, you could call it heaven, or the broadness of life, or just the beauty of being able to take a breath. So this appreciation for life deepened from the dark
Mm,
experience that I had.
yep.
And then the subsequent experiences as well is just some wild things that happen sitting there basically meditating for 10 days in the jungle, like tuning into mystical reality, tuning into spiritual reality, tuning into, and this is going to get super woo woo, but like spirit guides, guardian angels, like past lives, like all those things started to come up. I had no concept of any of that before going. And so now my journey the last 15 months has been, how do I integrate this spiritual awareness into normal daily life? And it was very interesting because after the ceremony, I went back to play college football, and I was in the environment with a bunch of 18 to 24-year-old dudes doing a very masculine thing, a very worldly, practical thing, but like my consciousness was still expanded to spiritual, mystical reality. So it was a very interesting dance to be in that game, but like not be fully in the game in terms of my consciousness. So I'm still I think we're going to be integrating our whole lives, honestly, but like still integrating. How do I play with this awareness in the material business game? So that's been my journey over the last 15 months. But like, there's definitely a new level of clarity and responsibility and knowingness of, in terms of a mission that I'm on. Like, what's my mission in this lifetime? That emerged from that journey, and it's deepened and it's deepening. It feels like every single day.
Okay, I was going to ask you, like, because we're talking about maybe some of the good things that came out of it. Like, we both became kind of like mystics, I guess, in some sense of the word. Like, people ask me, oh, are you religious? I'm like, I'm more of a mystic, I guess. You know, like, I don't know how else to put it.
Yeah.
But maybe what is the biggest thing for you from doing ayahuasca that is unresolved?
Ooh, what a good question. I think it's related to women and relationships. Like, I was shown on the last journey, like, basically you need to be in relationships, because I haven't been. I've been kind of a lone wolf. Like, and there I went through a whole journey of like very intense anxiety with women, like fear of women, sexual issues with women, all these things early in college, from like probably 18 to 22. And then I started to resolve it as I got into mental health and all these things. But yeah, I mean, I think the thing that's unresolved is actually committing into a relationship, because I was shown like, okay, like you got to start doing this. I've actually, in terms of my relationships with women in the past year since then, has been completely different in terms of like my own level of embodiment, how I show up with them, like no fear, talking to a lot of people, but in terms of committing and choosing and seeing it through, that is, I think, what is still yet to happen. But I'm ready. I'm moving to Thailand in like 3 weeks. Like, I think somebody could be waiting, but we shall see. I also don't want to settle. It's a very interesting thing.
What do you think was the reason you weren't ready for that relationship before ayahuasca? Because you kind of have like a realization arc now, but what part of you wasn't ready?
I was just scared. Scared of, I think it was a lot of competition or comparison to other guys. Like, am I ready? Am I really a man? Am I good enough compared to these other guys? Am I good enough for this girl? Because I feel as though a lot of my self-esteem early on, from let's say childhood to 18, was built on my reputation or social status. Like, I was quarterback of my high school football team, like good looking guy, like kind of life of the party. And like, that was where all my social energy and social status and confidence came from. But in college, and it's kind of like the Jordan Peterson crab or lobster analogy, first rule of life. I went from a top lobster to like relatively on the bottom of the lobster chain in terms of my football team and my social status. And because I hadn't developed self-confidence within, it was all external. When that went away, I had nothing left. So I've had to like build that up internally again, to now, okay, I don't care what my social status is. I don't care who I am in relation to people. And actually, I've been thinking about this more recently too. Like, me being 24, my social status compared to those around me in some ways is lower. People have these super high paying jobs. They're living in high rise apartments, all these things. I was back in school. So my social status is still maybe relatively lower, but my confidence internally is higher because I learned how to build that within.
It's so interesting you say that, because when people say that they're afraid to do ayahuasca because they're like, I don't want to lose my ambition, right? I think you and I both did not experience that.
No,
Like,
it'll channel your ambition in a more aligned way,
yes, because
which
what
can be scary because it's like, what do I
it
have
is
to let go of?
it's so scary. Because when you were talking about the social status thing, I wouldn't say my so when I think about wanting status, it's like status deprivation. That's why we're like motivated to get it. I wouldn't say it completely eliminated mine, but it probably reduced my status deprivation by like 70%. Like it's just when I hear people talk about, even more honestly, like, oh, I just want more status, I want more money, I want to be perceived in this certain way. Ever since doing ayahuasca, I'm like, I just don't feel that as much anymore.
Yeah, the reason why I want those things has changed to my future wife, my future family, and
Yeah.
like my community and my current family to lift them up rather than the external. So the
Yes.
ambition is still there, but the reason deepened as you go deeper into yourself.
Yeah, it becomes more intrinsic than extrinsic, I would say. Ayahuasca is really good at that.
Yes.
Yeah. Like I agree. Because I see this in both of us to just in different ways where it's not like I did ayahuasca and I'm like, I don't want to grow on social media. I don't want to make more money. I don't want to grow a business. Like
Yeah.
I actually do want to do all those things, but yeah, I want to do them to provide. I want to do them to, maybe grow on social media because I think the ideas that I have can help a lot of people and I want to help as many people as possible, which requires having a bigger audience.
Right.
Like they're more intrinsic and service based than I'm doing this because I want to look a certain way or be like perceived as higher than other people in a status hierarchy.
Yeah, and it's like soul based too, because it's like, okay, now I know in my soul contract, in my soul destiny, I'm meant to do this. And it's funny, I started laughing when you said that because the first time we went 3 years ago now, probably to Costa Rica, we did one ceremony. All that I was shown that entire ceremony was like the big creators that I looked up to, and like you need to become just like them. Like you need to start posting on YouTube every single day. Like that was what came through in that first ceremony. So it was interesting because I remember journaling before that when we were staying in that Airbnb with Matt. I was like, I'm ready to give it all up. I'm ready to like go to India and go on a spiritual quest. And then
Yeah.
I drank the ayahuasca thinking that might happen. And all that happened was like, I am supposed to become a massive YouTuber. that was kind of what came through. Of course, it was deeper. Like why? Like why am I the way I am? What's my purpose? All these things. But like that was the external manifestation. So it didn't destroy my ambition. It actually increased it.
Yeah. Dude, very similar experience here with it. It alters ambition. Like before doing a lot of ayahuasca, it was like, hey, the creators who are ahead of me, I looked to them and like, oh, like I felt almost this what's the right word? Envy. Like, oh, I feel like I should have that brand, or like jealousy, like, oh, I feel like if I would have made different decisions, I could have been the one with that many followers making that much money.
Yes.
And doing ayahuasca, and it wasn't just doing ayahuasca, it was the afterwards, the integration of it. I slowly came to realize, like, you know what? The people who are ahead of me, I actually don't want what they have. I want my own version of it.
Mm-hmm.
Like even when I look at Dan, who's probably one of my bigger North Stars, I really love Dan's content. I'm like, I don't want to actually build a brand around human potential. That's not for me, but I loved going in this more multi-passionate, polymathic angle. And now I'm able to look more at someone like Dan and say, what can I take from him for inspiration? Oh, I like this piece. I like this piece. I'm inspired by these parts of him, but I want to manifest them in my own way.
Yeah, from my perspective on you, how I see you, and it deepened as we were going through those ceremonies, was like, I think you're an artist.
Yes.
There's a business element to that, of course, too, but I think you're an artist where I'd classify Dan as like a builder. Dan's a builder, you're an artist.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And identity wise, I think this year I've really stepped into the more artist persona and started to figure out how can I actualize that and still build around that and be a business owner. And
Right.
even looking at some other people like, in the ghostwriting space, there's like the other people like Nicholas Cole and like Dickie Bush. And I'm like, oh, I really love what they've done in the ghostwriting space. But the brands don't feel like artistic enough to feel aligned with what I'm really into.
Yeah, you and Dickie are, from my perspective, like kind of polar opposites on the spectrum. He is like builder, builder, builder. You are creative. That's how I see it. Not saying he's not creative, but I do see you guys very differently.
Yeah. Yeah, I appreciate that. I actually feel more nowadays, I feel more aligned with you in terms of brand, just in a different way. Like I see a lot of myself reflected when I chat with you in our conversations about being like neurodivergent, polymathic, or I prefer to use the word aspiring polymath because I think becoming a polymath is very hard.
Right.
Aspiring polymath, we're into spirituality, multiple things, and we're kind of in maybe a little messy and chaotic. And there's a downside to that sometimes, but it's also just a part of who we are. I don't know if you feel that too, but for me, it's been like accepting, hey, like I'm not really like as put together as people might think. That's okay.
Yeah.
Like, you know what, my psychologist did, what is it called? An anagram or something? I can't remember. It's like a personality thing.
Yeah.
He was like, you're a troubled mystic.
Troubled mystic.
Yeah, that's what he described me as. He's like, you feel things really deeply up and down.
Right.
So you feel a lot of energy and you'll move towards them, but you also have like what's called a triple doubt. He's like, when you doubt yourself, you doubt it like triple the amount that you maybe should. And when you feel things, you feel them very negatively and very positively. So you're very troubled in nature. That's why I don't see myself as someone who's very put together in the same way as maybe someone like the other people in the creator space who seem to be builders and very disciplined. Is my experience is very negatively emotional in nature. Like there are a lot of days that I just am like very sad and very like,
it's an artist though, right? Like that's what an artist is like.
Yes, exactly. And I used to want to change that about myself, but not as much anymore.
Yes.
I think it's a gift to be able to feel so deeply and to be able what you can create. Like, I don't know if you listen to him, but Louis Capaldi as his music, like this past year has like totally just like touched my soul. I seen him live and I was like crying, dude. I was like, there's something about this that feels like it's going into like my soul and like in my spine. And I'm just resonating with it. And I looked it up and his like personality type apparently is like similar to mine as like more from an anagram perspective. I'm like,
Makes sense.
Like, it's that like troubled artist archetype. And it's okay.
Yeah.
Like, I don't have it all figured out. Yeah, I'm like fucking sad all the time. It's fine.
Yeah. Right. And that is okay. And it's like it would be a disservice to your soul to not honor that part of yourself and say, I just need to go build. I need to just be a builder.
Yeah. It just doesn't feel right.
Yeah. I love finding the people that are similar in nature. And I don't look at psychology as much. This is where like I look at astrology, I look at human design, I look at numerology. Especially numerology is quite interesting to look into because like I'm a 5, and so there's a juxtaposition here. And actually I'll give some should I give some sauce? I guess I'll give some sauce. Dan Coe is from my understanding, a 22, or at least that's one of his numbers. He's a 22. Right. 22 is 4 is the builder, disciplined. 22 is the master number of that.
Yeah.
My dad is a 4 as well. And this is why sometimes like it takes a minute for us to see eye to eye. I'm a 5. 5 is like the opposite. 5 is like the adventurous traveling explorer. And you're a 9, which is like the humanitarian, idealistic visionary. And so what I find interesting is I look at the most powerful 5s, or the 5s that I want to be like. So 5s that I can name off the top of my head are Alan Watts is a 5. There's a bunch of singers. I think like Beyonce might be a 5 or something. Richard Branson is a 5. And then from a sports perspective, if you guys know the NFL, I found this very interesting, especially because I played football this year. The quarterbacks that are 5s are Patrick Mahomes, Caleb Williams, and Kyler Murray. And if you watch them play, it manifests is like they're very spontaneous. They're very free flowing. They're very creative. They're not like a rigid, like mechanical type of player. And it's interesting for me to see these people and then reflect it back to myself and say, okay, like my adventurous nature might not make sense to my dad, who's a 4, but it's intrinsic to my soul. And then it helps me basically accept myself more. Maybe that's what it's all about. It's like looking at all these people, like it's okay to just be who I am.
Was that the biggest thing it solved for you, was helping you accept yourself, or was there another obstacle it helped you overcome?
More so, I'd frame it as like an unlocking. Like, okay, if I'm a 5, who would I be being if I was a 5? Okay, I probably wouldn't be operating in fear. I would write this crazy article. I would make this video. I would go explore astrology. I would talk philosophically because it's in my 5 nature. It even like it manifests with like 5s are apparently the most sexual of the numbers, and they're the most interested in the other sex, and like that had been a thing that I'd suppressed for a while, which led to all those issues that I talked about. But I'm like, if I'm a 5, let me just be in that, let me just express that, and that's okay.
That's really cool, man. I see so much of that in you too. Like you're definitely always out there exploring, having fun. You're in Thailand running retreats, you're launching like cohorts. It's so cool because Dale and I are always like, man, Jack's just like off kind of doing his thing, and we're just all for it. Like we just
I
love
love it. I
following
appreciate
along
that.
with it and just seeing what you're up to next. It's so cool.
I appreciate it. And it's part of my path to learn how to be more disciplined. Like I have this massive numerology document. It's like 250 pages. There's one number missing from all of it, and the number is 4. 4 is nowhere to be found. And so it's part of my karma, it's part of my path to learn how to live in more of that disciplined, structured energy because it's not naturally a part of me.
It's hard.
Or I got to find people who can be the 4 in my life. I need to find the person who's super diligent, organized, that can allow me to be more creative and spontaneous. And then all the fundamentals and things are taken care of on the back end.
Yeah. That's, there's a bit of a segue back to something we were talking about earlier, which was the mental health stuff. We didn't cover ADHD.
I was going to, yeah, of course. That's very ADHD of us to forget about that.
To forget about the ADHD topic.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
There's so much I could say about it, but one useful belief about ADHD, and this will then connect to your discipline thing, is I like the idea that it might not be something that you're just naturally wired from, or that it is something that can be either like strengthened or weakened. So you can be on like a spectrum, like you were saying. Because when I got diagnosed, at first I was like, oh, I have ADHD. And slowly I've been like, I have tendencies of someone with ADHD that can be worked on or improved. Maybe I will never be as neurotypical as other people who are very disciplined builders, but I can improve like a lot from where I am, and just that mindset was very useful. And then what I learned was, so motivation, what it actually is from at least an Eastern philosophy perspective, is wherever your thoughts are persisting is where you're motivated to act.
Fascinating.
And I see that in myself when I sit down to write. If I'm just thinking about anime, I'm like writing and then anime pops up. I'm like, no, I got to write. And then I'm writing and anime pops up, and it just like, keeps persisting.
What does it mean if a girl keeps popping into my head right now?
Definitely means that's where you're motivated to move towards in whatever way that looks like.
So interesting. I love that.
I found that to be really fascinating because, motivation is not discipline and motivation is not habit. Motivation is actually the opposite of habit, because habit would imply that your brain automatically goes in the direction that you want to go. It's like I sit down and write every day at this time, and your brain automatically knows I'm going to just think about that thing, which tends to be like why you're motivated in that direction. But we don't really define motivation as the things you do automatically. We define it as the things that you do with effort. So what motivation is if your habits or your neurodivergence are pulling your brain in all these directions. You're thinking about this and this and this, and you're following it, you end up kind of scattered. So it's basically learning concentration is what helped me. So there's ways you can do this where, okay, I'm just going to look at a candle and I'm going to stare at it. And whenever my mind goes something else, I'm going to force myself to just stare at this candle for 30 minutes. Wow. So that's like a way a monk would do it. But you can do it with work too. Like it can be active meditation. It's I'm sitting down to work. My mind went to anime or it went to cookies because I'm craving junk food. And I pull it back. And motivation is your ability to force your mind to think where you want it to think. And the longer you can force your mind to stay there, the more likely you are to move in that direction. So then in this definition or this explanation, basically the strength of a mind is determined by how long you can use conscious effort to focus on one thing. And if you can't do that, you have a weak mind. And I love that definition because it made me realize I had a weak mind.
Yes. I mean, it's resonating with me. So there's clearly some work to be done.
Same with me. I'm still working on this. But what I liked about this definition was it allowed me to change my behavior in a way that could actually help me build more discipline. It's not just like be more disciplined, because discipline is like an emotional problem, right? It's very hard to just tactically sit down and force yourself to do the things you want to do. But now that I'm like, okay, I have a weak mind. When I sit down to work, it goes over here. And the more that I practice bringing it back, I can strengthen those circuits. And then it will require less effort the more times I do this. And I can slowly control my own motivation as someone who's neurodivergent. And then you can still allow yourself to go wherever you want in the evenings.
Right. You need that balance. And it's what you're speaking about is so similar to how people teach meditation. Like when the mind wanders, simply bring it back. It's the practice of bringing it back. And you can be meditative in your work. I think that's the biggest thing that I'm going to take away from this.
Dude, meditative in your work is such a good way to say that. I wish I had thought of it.
I think you said it already. I think that's why.
I call it active meditation.
Yeah, it's something like that.
Yeah, but I didn't say meditative in your work. I was that good.
If you resonated with that, I'm gonna write it down, and you're gonna see a Substack note from me tomorrow.
I'm gonna beat you to it. I just go on a Substack right now.
You know what's funny is I did a podcast with Dan Coe like 2 years ago, and we arrived at a new idea like that, something about like for Parkinson's law, and he was like, "Oh, I'm taking that." And the next day, or like within a few minutes, he had come up with Coe's law and like put it out, and it went viral. and he texted me, he's like, "I beat you to it." I'm like, "Dude, you're just at a fucking different level."
That is so funny. I love that. That is definitely something Dan would do. He has no what is it? What's the term for it? It's called the paralysis of initiation or something like that. I can't remember the exact term, but it's basically when you intuitively feel like doing something, but you just don't act on it, and that muscle's not strong enough yet.
Yes.
And it's something to be developed, and that over time you can overcome the paralysis of initiation, where when your body's like, "Would you do that tweet right now?" You just do it. You don't even second guess yourself.
Yeah, and it is something to practice, because there'll be times where I'm like, I gotta get this tweet out, and I'm like there trying to get it out, but like my mind is still trying to pull me somewhere else. It's such an interesting practice. But again, it's much easier to do that when your nervous system is calm. It's all fucking connected.
It all comes down to regulation. Like it's, I think the last open loop we have from this is I said I would talk about how to plant thoughts in your subconscious mind, like for the depression thing. So you think, like, again, depression is like there's a thought generator that keeps bringing up negative ones. You got to replace the generator. And people will be like, I just use affirmations. But affirmations do not work unless you are really, really relaxed. You need to be so relaxed to implant thoughts in your subconscious mind or be on a psychedelic.
Yes.
Yeah.
I've been getting into ask formations, ASK formations. So like, if you ask yourself in this moment, why am I so successful? Then your subconscious mind will start coming up with answers. Oh, I'm so successful because I'm super disciplined, or I'm super creative, or I'm super good with people. And then you can keep leaning into that. So ask formations. I think I want to make some more like videos on this. Like I'm literally taking notes right now. My mind is going in a million directions, bro.
Well, dude, that's an honor. If we can have a conversation and your mind is just like feeling creative and inspired to go all over the place, I would say I'll take that as a massive compliment.
I love it. I mean, I have an idea for you that I'm going to tell you after in terms of like a business idea, but I think we should wrap the podcast up before. But dude, this was so fun. Like, this was one of the most fun conversations I had in a long time. I feel like we can just hit a flow state. It's so fun.
Dude, same. We definitely need to do it again. Yeah, we'll do another one once I'm through all of like my pre-recorded ones that we've done so far. When it makes sense, we can like put it out almost right away. But yeah, let's do it. I always love chatting with you, man. I don't know if we'll end up getting together this year, but in the next couple of years, we got to go sit with the grandmother again. I'm starting to feel called.
It's been in my awareness. It's been floating, but we'll talk about it. Before we hop,
I will see you this year at the Creator Conference.
I'm going to see you at the Creator Economy Convention. Yeah.
Yes, that's right. Okay.
Check out thelivinginternet.com to listen to Taylin speak, and myself and some other amazing people.
Yes, it'll
and to meet us, and we're going to do an after party. And Taylin might DJ if I could convince him.
I'll go back to back with you.
That'd be so fun. It'd be fucking awesome.
Would be awesome.
But dude, what are you working on right now, or what can people go check out?
Yeah, so I'm mainly working on Substack, and I'm going to be launching my YouTube again very soon. But the products that I'm working on are basically around being a multi-passionate writer. I want to put together a lot of resources for people who struggled with the neurodivergence and the thing that I went through, how to be multi-passionate, how to actually be disciplined with it, how to get an outcome from it, how to actually write stuff creatively. My soul wants me to go there. So that's where I'm going next. That'll be the next year.
Amazing. I'm excited to check it out. Dude, this was so fun. Appreciate your time, and I'm looking forward to the next one.
Yeah, likewise, brother. Love you. We'll chat soon.
Much love to you too.